Everybody. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. We're so excited to have you with us. Lovely to see everybody joining. So before we dive right into this, I'll go ahead with a couple of housekeeping informations. Oh, Steve, love the excitement. Just what we needed. So yeah, just a couple of housekeeping things. The chat is open for you to say hi. Would love to hear how everybody's doing today. And also would love to hear where you are on your SEO journey, since that's what we'll be talking about today. Would love to hear if you are, already have some experience with SEO, are just getting started, or maybe just curious to learn more about it. So feel free to put that in the chat. And also, I know there's a couple of Planable users, but maybe some people aren't as familiar with the with our tool. So let us know that as well. If you feel comfortable sharing, if you're aware of what Planable does or not, because you will be hearing a bit about it. SEO is still the main topic, no worries. We will have a recording sent over afterwards, together with the presentation. The last thing to keep in mind is we'll go over the presentation and leave all questions to the end, but feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A if they come to you during Andrea's presentation. So we'll make sure to leave time at the end to go over it. I hope everybody's excited. I feel like everybody has joined so far. If anybody else comes afterwards, we're happy to have them. And yeah, I think it's time for us to get started. As you all know, we're here today to talk about SEO and how the SEO workflow looks like at our team at Planable. And before we get started, we want to just give you a quick overview of what Planable is. So we'll mention this for those of you that maybe aren't as familiar. Planable is a content collaboration tool. We're designed to help teams of any sizes create, plan, collaborate, and approve their content. We started with social media, but since about a year now, we've expanded and are now supporting through our new feature, Universal Content, any type of content, so any non-social media. That includes blogs and articles, which we'll be talking about today, but also newsletters, briefs, press releases, ads, just anything you can imagine can now live in Planable next to all of your content. But all right, let's kind of get into what we've come here to speak about. Now, today with me, we have Andrea. She's my colleague and our SEO lead at Planable. She has a ton of experience in SEO, 8 years and counting, and she's really kind of done it all, like on the agency side, on the enterprise side, and now at SaaS. So yeah, I'll let her take over from here, and we're excited to get started.
Thank you so much for the intro, Noah. And thank you everyone for taking the time to join us. We have a very exciting webinar ahead of us and quite a lot of information to unpack. So I'm gonna jump straight into it. So just to give you an overview about what we're going to discuss today, we are going to tell you all about how we work with our writers. We're going to tell you how we keep an eye on content quality. We're going to go through our SEO workflow and show you how it has helped us scale content. And then we're going to also show you how we use Planable for all of our SEO operations. So before we jump into the nitty-gritty, I wanted to give you this quick snapshot of what we've achieved so far in 2023 in terms of organic traffic. So we actually started the year with 30,000, and now we are at 80,000 monthly organic visits. And we also started the year with 400 keywords, and we're now at over 1,000 keywords, ranking in top 3 results in Google. So pretty sweet numbers. And now I'm gonna dive into what we actually did behind the scenes to achieve all of this. Cool. At the beginning of the year, we realized we weren't really producing a lot of content for the Planable blog, and we really wanted to pump the gas and start ramping up content production. And I was reading a very interesting article by Tom Critchlow, who also created SEO MBA. Very cool resource if you want to brush up on your SEO strategy. But he mentioned this idea of working on the system, not in the system. And the concept really resonated with me and stuck with me because it made me take a step back and actually start looking at all of our processes through this new filter. So what it all boils down to is solving problems versus building capacity. So we knew we wanted to scale. That's why, you know, the phrasing building capacity really drew my attention. And the article really made this comparison between the two. So when you're solving a problem, you're really just doing a quick fix, which obviously means it works short term, but it doesn't really help you see the macro vision. It only shows you problems as unique occurrences. Whereas building capacity, you know, really puts you in that long-term vision. And what really, you know, sold me on the whole concept and idea was building capacity means you are working up the organization's capacity to scale, which were like music to my ears, right? I did a deep dive, really took a step back, and I looked at the content system as it looked like at beginning of 2023, laid it all on the table, and we did the brainstorming, and we brought all the team together to kind of nitpick at every step of the process. So it looked pretty standard, right? We started from a keyword. We created the brief around the keyword. We then assigned the brief to a freelance writer. Then they would do their whole research and the writing. This was followed usually by one, but a lot of the times a couple or a few rounds of feedback before we actually got to the optimization stage, before we published the article, and finally to tracking and monitoring. So this was what working in the content system at Planable looked like. And then we applied that concept of building capacity, which made us look at the system from a step behind. And we started like pulling things apart and asking ourselves pretty hard questions, like really challenging the system, right? Even like a simple task such as choosing a keyword, like we questioned our choices, like why start from a keyword? Why was that the starting point? Why not look at pain points, or what other resources could we find in order to come up with topics and create relevant content? We also really asked ourselves, are we setting the writer up for success? And you're going to see that this question really comes up a lot because I think it's so essential to content scaling, right? You want to nail all of these steps and processes. You want to have, you know, thorough documentation in place. You want to have those standard operating procedures so that everything runs smoothly and nothing falls through the cracks. so yeah, we kept asking those questions, and we looked at every piece of the puzzle, and tried to challenge it and see if there's more to it, if there's anything we can improve to make sure that we create a well-oiled content machine. And we were pretty, harsh on ourselves. Like, we saw how many rounds of feedback like our content had to go through. So that begged some questions, like why are we having to send the content back and forth? Why aren't we creating instructions and setting the expectations right from the very beginning? And the same goes for briefs. This concept of working on the system made us think about, are we creating comprehensive briefs? Are we, giving the freelance writers enough structure for them to know what we expect from them, but not so many instructions to overwhelm them and like stifle their creativity? So yeah, there was a lot of work going on behind the scenes before we even started the whole content scaling process. But I think all the brainstorming and the ideas we gathered from all of these discussions, that that one sentence in that one article sparked, because it really helped us fine tune our processes and really find what works for us at Planable. So we were super excited when we came up with a brand new system. And for us, it's based on 4 core pillars: quality content, freelance writers, easy onboarding, and a foolproof workflow. And we're going to take them one by one, and I'm going to tell you all about them. So we wanted to start by defining quality content. This is a phrase, a term that we all hear about on a daily basis. You can't really open LinkedIn nowadays without seeing a post about quality content, right? And I feel like it's been so overused. Unfortunately, it's become quite a cliche. And I feel like it's easy to lose sight of what it really means and why we should care about it. So it was very important for us at Planable to really get on the same page about what quality content is and what we want from it and what our goals are and what our expectations are. So we wanted to make sure that everyone on the team was pulling in the same direction. So we defined quality content through 3 key elements that then guided our whole content scaling efforts. The first one was relevance. And we are very intent on creating super relevant content for our audience, whether they are Planable customers or whether they just hear about our brand for the very first time. We want to be relevant to them. We want to speak their language. We want to empathize with them, and we want to make sure that we don't, get stuck in tools like Ahrefs and SEMrush and Google Search Console, that we go beyond them and look at the lingo of our users and readers. And, we've been, we go to maybe less conventional places, like we like to hang out on Reddit and Quora and YouTube and TikTok. We also like to listen to sales calls because you really get immersed in the language that your readers use. And you'd be surprised that you can actually find very good keywords in there that you wouldn't really find in like our traditional tools that we still use and love. But these are like more like hidden tactics maybe that you can a way to discover new ways of phrasing and new topic ideas. Another key element of quality content at Planable was value. This is another pretty overused keyword. Again, you can't open a piece about quality content without really seeing value mentioned. And it's pretty hard to ensure that every piece of content is valuable. And I know it was a challenge for us. So the solution we came up with was reaching out to subject matter experts and really getting to know them and involving them in different ways in our content. So a few ways we've experimented with this was asking subject matter experts to create briefs for articles for us, to write articles from scratch without a keyword, just thought leadership pieces that we could then share with our audience. That's an excellent way to add value. And the subject matter expert also gets some exposure, especially if your blog already has a bit of traffic. So you can see that as a win-win situation. Another way we incorporate this immense value that subject matter experts brings to the table is we often reach out and ask them for quotes. We know that Google can now assess how valuable an article is. So we try to sprinkle quotes in most of our articles. We've experimented a lot with this tactic as well. We started out using Help a Reporter Out. That's a platform that was originally used by journalists who were looking for sources for their articles or newspaper content. And then it kept developing and became actually a resource for pitching ideas and link building. Help a Reporter Out didn't really work for us. We saw that the quality of the answers was a bit diluted. So what we did was we created our own mini database of subject matter experts that we could reach out to whenever we had a question, or we wanted to validate an idea, or we wanted a quote. And that's really something that we're still driving value from today. And of course, we keep expanding that database, and we know that we're getting really unique insights, and they're sharing their earned secrets with us, and that's how we get to add value to each and every piece of content we publish. And finally, of course, we could not forget about experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. We all know how much Google cares about that. And we wanted to breathe expertise into all of our blog articles. Again, a pretty tall order. How do you even measure that? How can you set a standard for it? How do you basically, how do you quantify it? Again, we came up with our own definition and our own approach, because I'm sure it's different from organization to organization. But we define expertise as really building the trust and the authority, not just for Google's sake, but for the sake of our audience, because we want to be seen as reliable, and we want to make sure that we are going the extra mile and we're doing thorough research. We are not just settling for rewriting the top 10 ranking results and just putting something out there and hope for the best, hope that it's going to rank. We're really trying to bring our own insights to the table. And one way we try to stand out from a crowded space is we use the expertise we have on the team. I feel like that's such a low-hanging fruit, right? We're lucky to have diverse backgrounds on our marketing team at Planable. So I like to ping my colleagues and ask them for a quote, or ask them I don't know, to share something, whether it's from our performance lead or our creative lead. You'd be surprised how they can help you connect the dots and actually help you add more meat to the bone. And that's just a simplification of bringing more expertise into your content. But yeah, that was pretty much in a nutshell the definition of quality content at Planable. Then the second pillar for our brand new system was freelance writers. So how do we find the right writers? I am a sucker for bad puns, so there you go. How do we find the writers? Well, it's again not an easy task. We did this through a lot of trial and error. The bottom line is you have to test a lot of writers to find those few that really match your tone of voice. They really get your product. They're excited to write for you, and you can see they go the extra mile. They put in the research and they make suggestions. For us, it took 150 tested writers to narrow it down to 20 writers that we chose for a trial. So we started out by giving short test assignments just to assess how freelancers could follow instructions, how their style sounded like. And then in the second phase, we moved on with the chosen 20 plus. And we actually gave them a full article as a test assignment. And again, this is another step where you decide what criteria you're looking for, what your quality standards look like. For us at Planable, we really value someone who gets our tone of voice. We try to support them with a lot of resources from the get-go, and we do have this expectation that they're gonna take 15 minutes to familiarize themselves with the product, and we expect them to sign up for Planable and click around and try to really get what we offer, because that's going to be reflected in their writing, and we're going to notice how easy it is for them to sprinkle in product features, and how we try to judge them not just by their writing skills, right, but by the effort they put into everything they create and write for us. So we went forward with a trial with a bit over 20 freelance writers, and from those we were left with 6 very good matches, freelance writers that we decided to collaborate with on long term. So yeah, it's definitely not an easy process. You do learn a lot about yourself and about your writing style. I would say that the best lessons come from trial and error, right? This whole process has made me the biggest fan of over explaining and kind of having this noticing that a thing can be misinterpreted in so many different ways. But we're super happy with the writers we have at the moment. And because we know how hard the process is, we are so invested in nurturing them and offering them the whole, all the resources really that they need in order to create content. We play to their strengths, and we always try to make sure that we take their input into account. Like I was mentioning earlier, we are very thorough with our brief creation, but we don't want to be too rigid. Like, we still want their creativity and their research skills to shine through. But yeah, this was our process of finding writers, and we used a variety of platforms. We used good old Google search. We also used LinkedIn, and we reached out to subject matter experts, and we asked if they would be interested in writing for us. We also tested Upwork. We tried the different avenues. Again, it's trial and error. You just it might be different from niche to niche, from industry to industry, but the right matches are out there, especially with a bit of coaching and sharing the right resources. You can find these freelance writers that are gonna help you scale content, and follow the guidelines and all the criteria you lay out for them. Awesome. So the next pillar of our new system was onboarding these freelance writers, right? So we set out to scale. We were mindful of our time and resources, and we knew that as much as we wanted it, we couldn't have one-on-ones with each and every one of our freelancers. We wanted to create like a hub where our freelancers could onboard, like a self-service, you could call it. But we wanted them to have everything they needed at their fingertips. And of course, this took a lot of iterations. Again, good old trial and error. What you see right now actually is a peek from Planable and how we have everything organized at the moment. Rest assured, it did not look like this in the beginning. Onboarding in the very beginning was very much done in a thread of emails. There were a lot of attachments going back and forth. Needless to say, a lot of the times those attachments were missed. A lot of Google links, Google Docs links were shared. So it was pretty hard going in the beginning. A lot of there was a learning curve, and we learned as we went. We refined our process, and we learned what needed fine-tuning. So it was a pretty big game changer when we launched universal content in Planable, because it allowed us to finally have everything organized into one SEO dashboard. So this is a sneak peek into how we have organized our freelancers at the moment. The cool thing is we can create a workspace for each and one of them, and they can have access to everything that we have created over time for them. And this makes it really easy and painless for us, whether we have a new freelancer that we need to onboard pretty fast, or we have a brief creator that needs to go in and work on a brief and then share it with a writer. Or whether it's us in-house, working on SEO optimizations and keeping track of blog articles. I really love it that everything is in one place, and we don't really have to worry about missing something. Things slipping through the cracks are really my nightmare, and that's what usually happened with endless chains of emails. But yeah, maybe Noah wants to chime in and give you a bit more customer centric details here.
Yes, and I did realize I was so focused on introducing you because I was so excited. I totally missed introducing myself very quickly. So just if you're wondering who am I and what I'm doing on this webinar, because as you can see, I'm not talking SEO. I'm Noah, and I'm customer success lead here at Planable, and I'm sort of the product expert on today's call. So I wanted to just chime in quickly again, because I do believe there might be people with us that aren't as familiar with Planable. So just to kind of put this in a bit more context, what we're looking at right now, what Andreea just shared, is her Planable dashboard. And she created it so that it makes sense for her SEO process. And this sort of rectangle, each rectangle you see here, like with the name and Planable, this is one of their brief writers or freelance writers, and each of them has their own workspace. And when we say workspace, what we mean by that is sort of like a folder that holds all of the relevant content and people in one place. In this case, as we just talked about, it's, each freelance writer has its own workspace, so everything is neatly organized for them, and also for Andrea, that she and the entire SEO team have a nice overview across all of them. But you could also think of this if you're an agency working with multiple clients. Each client would have their own workspace. Again, similarly, each client is going to see their own content, but you, from the agency side, have a good overview across all of your clients. So yeah, this is what a dashboard in Planable could look like if you were part of an SEO team.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, and here's another sneak peek of how we actually work with a freelancer in Planable. So again, we kept that big question, $1 million question in mind. How do we set them up for success? Because I really think that's the key to content scaling, right? Making sure there's no room for misinterpretation, that you're clear from the very beginning. And we realized that we wanted to have everything in one place, because that's how we make the freelancers' lives easier, and that's how we save time and resources. So one way we went about doing that was, in Planable, we bring our freelancers and we create a workspace for each and one of them, and then they have in this case, she has 3 different pages. So she has her briefs page, her templates page, and her resources page. And this has meant that instead of using 3 tools, we're just using Planable. So she can go in and create the brief, starting from the keyword that she receives from us after, of course, doing keyword research. And at the same time, she can use the templates that we have, that we know that they work and we have refined over time, and we've seen results from them. Like we've seen that these templates are what are ranking us high in Google. But then the same freelancer also has access to the resources that we created for them. And in this case, what you see right now is a guide about how to use Surfer SEO, which is a tool that we use and we love. It's a tool that uses AI to extract keywords and semantic terms, and it helps you build an article outline and then the actual content that you're going to publish. And it kind of suggests how many times you should include a key term in order to outrank your competitors. So yeah, it was very important for us to distill all of this information and to have everything in one place, especially after seeing that onboarding can take a long time. Like there are so many moving pieces that need to come together. You want the freelancer to get the product right. You want them to actually test the tools that they're talking about. You want them to nail the tone of voice. You also want them to use the tools that you're using, because you want to make sure SEO is on point. And yeah, there are a lot of moving pieces, and we had to come up with a solution for that, because probably will come as no surprise, but we're huge fans of feedback. Like we are a collaborative bunch, and we encourage that feedback. We don't want it to be one way, but we also encourage our freelancers, to weigh in and, tell us if they would change something up. So we really needed a space that, where we could bring everything into one place, where we could easily see everything that's up to date, and again, not go back to Slack or WhatsApp or emails. And that's where Planable really shines. yeah, also wanted to give you a sneak peek at one of our briefs, because I kept bringing it up. Another key piece of making sure we set up our writers for success was helping them with these briefs. So like I mentioned before, we start with our keyword research. We go beyond the traditional tools. We look at pain points, and we try to align our keyword research with our overarching business goals. And then we want to make sure that we have a thorough brief that the freelancer can follow. This, of course, has also gone through many iterations, and I feel like we take a lot of feedback into account. But it was super important for us to be able to have a brief that's flexible and that still allows for creativity, and we still allow the writer to do their own research. Like, we don't want to take over that step for them. We want them to have the autonomy to use their expertise and bring that value to the table. But the way we organize briefs right now, and the way we share them with freelancers really has changed. Planable allows us to keep these briefs in one place and have that visibility for the whole team. And I really love like using the labels to see who created the brief and who's writing the article, because that means I don't have to, I don't know, go to a different tool or actually go to WordPress and try to dig through a lot of links and pages to find this information that I always want to have at my fingertips. Okay, and finally, the last pillar of our brand new system was creating this bulletproof workflow, right? Again, well-oiled content machine, it needs to run like clockwork. And we were aware from the beginning that we needed to support all of our efforts with documentation. We needed to have everyone on the same page. And we wanted to really fine-tune every piece of the puzzle so it all came together flawlessly. And the foolproof workflow is also part of that. So this is what it looked like at the beginning of the year. Again, pretty standard steps for an SEO workflow, right? You have the brief creation, feedback and revision stages, and often this took place in Google Docs, Asana, or over email, or all of these together. We would then have to assign these tasks, and the writer would take over, do their research, come back to us with the content. And these 3 stages usually happened again over Google Docs, email, Slack, and Surfer SEO, which is our SEO tool. And then we finally got at content feedback, proofreading, and content approval, which was a mix of Google Docs, email, Grammarly, and most likely Slack, because that's the easiest way to ping people and make sure you get on their radar. So yeah, this was what our SEO workflow used to look like. And now we have managed to kind of boil it down to less tools. Basically, all non-SEO specific tools have been replaced by Planable. So everything that meant collaboration, suggestions, annotations, asking for approval, following up with different stakeholders, can now live under one roof, and can now, we can easily see it at a glance in our SEO dashboard. And of course, we still use our trustworthy tools like Surfer SEO and Grammarly, the most reliable proofreader there is out there. But yeah, we really boiled it down to having all of these steps under one dashboard, just because it makes everyone's lives easier, not just ours, but also we want to be mindful of our freelancers' time, and we want to make sure that we set them up for success. And here's another sneak peek into how we actually organize. Organization is another keyword for content scaling. I really believe in planning, and we are all very, very big planners. So we like to see everything neatly arranged. So what works for us was dividing our keywords and our briefs per quarter. At the beginning of each quarter, we come together, we analyze what worked and what didn't the previous quarter, and we usually choose a batch of keywords. We decide what topics we want to tackle and what articles we want to create. And again, we do this in Planable because we all have visibility over our keyword selection. We make sure we don't target the same keyword twice. Definitely something you don't want to do. And we really found what works for us. Basically, having everything in one place, using labels and using the list view to see everything at a glance.
I just wanted to add here, especially because you mentioned how much we like organizing, which we really love, and having those color-coded labels is really helpful. It's, I believe like the blue is the brief creator and then the purple is the writer, or the other way around. Anyway, it's very easy to see at a glance exactly who's doing what. You can even take it further and filter this, like really creating custom views specifically if you want to focus on one brief creator, one writer. So yeah, it really allows you to kind of create that dedicated view that each stakeholder needs, because again, in our SEO team, there's several members, and then each of them can kind of focus on what's relevant for them. So we love a good list, organized list view.
Yeah, definitely. The visual factor really helps organizing and planning and making it more aesthetic. And finally, I wanted to show you how we actually, collaborate on content, because all of our feedback and suggestions now happens in Planable, and we bring all of our freelancers in the tool. We also are now working with a proofreader and an editor who comes in and leaves suggestions, and then we don't have to do anything but send it to the freelancers so they can implement the feedback. And one of our latest releases, actually suggestions, has been another game changer, has really helped us, speed up content creation and make sure nothing falls to the cracks, making sure that we implement everything. We are pretty intent on like publishing, content that looks really, really good, as well as being valuable and relevant and bringing that expertise to the table. But yeah, to sum it all up, all of our organic efforts this year basically translated to some very nice increases across the board. We saw a 160% increase in organic customers, so customers just coming from organic traffic. We also saw a 250% increase in our ARR, again, customers coming from organic traffic, and we have doubled our number of revenue generating blogs. We now have over 40 pieces that are generating ARR, and counting, hopefully. So yeah, this is what it all boils down. We have found a way to scale content, we have fine-tuned it, and we're still always making tweaks to it. We think we have a pretty good recipe, but we're always building on it. We're constantly asking for feedback from stakeholders, the people on the SEO team. We take into account any feedback that our freelancers have, and we try to make it run as smooth as possible, because that's what content scaling is all about. Just hitting all of your criteria while keeping it moving and making sure that you never sacrifice or compromise quality. But yeah, that was my presentation for all of you. And I think we'll now open it up to questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Andrea. I see some people already mentioned how useful it's been. So yeah, we're opening it up for questions. Feel free to put them in the chat or the Q&A section. And we already have one of our first questions that is about testing the writers, right? Elena here has asked, how did the test for the writers look like? Kind of what helped you choose which ones were the best for us, for you? I know you definitely mentioned, what us at Planable think is relevant, like the tone of voice and coming up with suggestions and their involvement. And if you can tell us a bit about how the assignment helped you figure this out at the very beginning.
Yeah, definitely. And just a heads up, it's a very individual choice. You're gonna have to figure out what you want to see in that test assignment. For us, what worked was having them actually write something similar something similar as something on our blog. So they would get the full brief for a real article, and we wouldn't request like the full length of the article, but we wanted them to give us like a good idea about if they can follow instructions, if they can incorporate keywords in an organic, natural way that doesn't irritate the user. We obviously looked at style and flow and writing skills. So we looked at the whole piece, not only through the lens of like their writing skills, but also how much time they spend on research. Did they actually spend time on the Planable blog? Did they try to emulate the tone of voice that they saw there? Did they include internal links? So we looked at different criteria. I would suggest even a short test assignment of 200 or 300 words, and maybe just see how they follow instructions, and then see how they take in their feedback and how they implement that. And of course, fine tune from there. If you notice that you're not really satisfied with your test, shake it up and change it. It doesn't have to be the same test over and over again.
Amazing. We have a couple of questions rolling in, so hopefully we'll get a chance to go through all of them. Maria here is asking an interesting question, I think, as much as I know SEO, but she's asking, were there old articles that weren't yet optimized for SEO when you started focusing on this? And I think, on this sort of new workflow and process. And if there were, like, how did you optimize them, or did you completely rewrite them or not? I don't know how much you can kind of let us in on this, but I think a bit about how we optimize maybe older articles and how this fits into the new process.
Nice question. Yeah, so actually that was a completely separate task from content scaling, because that was focusing on new keywords, on new topics that we wanted to tackle. But as a side project, yeah, we always keep an eye on old content. We try to see if it's still getting traffic. We monitor keywords very closely, and all of our articles go through this process of being kind of pulled apart. I mean, we go back to them, and we ask the question: is this piece of content still serving us? Is it worth it to invest a bit more time and effort into doing a full revamp, or just a few optimizations or some tweaks? So yeah, I would say it was for us, it was a separate ongoing project that we always, have like on a monthly basis. We check our metrics, we look at keyword rankings, traffic, and that's how we decide and prioritize which pieces of content we want to optimize, refresh, or even retire sometimes.
Amazing. There are a couple of questions more general about how Planable and SEO and universal content works. I want to say that we will have a dedicated session on this. I think in a couple of weeks, you'll definitely hear from us. So I'll share that. There's one or two other more SEO specific questions that I want to make sure we get to, and then depending on how much time, I'll dive maybe a bit deeper into how it works in Planable. But again, we'll definitely have other more dedicated webinars on how to use universal content in Planable. Another question for Andreea is about internal SMEs. I think that was subject matter experts. Yes, I remember that. So she was asking, do we only use internal people for this? And if not, how do we find and incentivize external social subject matter experts?
Oh, awesome question. Yeah, we go beyond internal SMEs. I would say that has to do a bit with networking. Like you really have to ask around, ask your internal SMEs to to ask for favors, like ask around, use LinkedIn, connect with other people, be curious about what they do, connect with them, maybe not just asking for a favor from the start, but follow them and gain an interest in what they write about, what they publish, and then maybe you can get in touch and ask them to contribute to your blog or ask them for a quote. But yeah, building your network does take a bit of time, but I do think it has a snowball effect. Like the more you get out there and you start meeting people, the easier it is then to get an introduction and have access to maybe bigger SMEs who maybe also have a following and who might be willing to give you a quote or to write an article for your blog.
And if I understood correctly from what you were mentioning earlier, I think you mentioned that at some point also sharing like a link for them, like it can also be put as a win-win situation with certain SMEs as well.
Definitely, yeah. That's a good approach. If you have a blog with a lot of traffic, or you have a lot of organic visits, that's something that's a good icebreaker.
Okay, the questions are rolling in. I love the enthusiasm. One that I know you're passionate about somewhat is about AI. And the question is, do we integrate AI into the content development process? And if yes, how do we do that?
Oh, I love these questions. We love AI. We love ChatGPT. We're totally not against it. That being said, we are mindful about AI created content. Like we never prohibit our freelancers to use ChatGPT, but we do test for AI content, and we do have the expectation that our content has to pass a test with originality.ai, which is a tool that we actually use. So we don't mind ChatGPT AI at all as a starting point. Like it's great for research. It's great for for narrowing down, I don't know, 10 different searches in Google. You can now do it in 5 seconds in ChatGPT. But we do treat it as a starting point. and maybe as a shortcut to research, but we would never use it to replace our subject matter experts, our expertise, our unique insights. Even if we are seeing experiments by different SEOs, who are ranking AI content and who are really building sites from scratch just with AI. I think that's a delicate situation, and that they might, see some negative effects down the road. So we are very big advocates of, using AI as a jumpstart, and then building on that, and bringing your expertise and sharing your earned secrets as a way to bring value to the table.
Amazing. Another great question about the team is, are we only working with external writers, or do we also have an internal team? So if you can talk about a bit about the structure of our team.
Yeah, of course. So we right now, the SEO team in-house focuses more on the strategic approach. So we are doing, the keyword research, all the optimizations, all the strategy in-house, and we have externalized our content efforts because we realize that's how we can reach, a bigger pool of freelance writers. And yeah, it's a solution that really works for us. We can, have subject matter experts for different areas. We can rotate the topics. We can, have a freelance writer just write for, a certain niche for a few months. Sometimes they might need some time off, and we can easily replace them with a different freelance writer. And we have found that this system really works for us. So focusing on having this strategic skill set in-house, and then externalizing like tasks like content creation, and sometimes even any type of creation that's needed.
Amazing. We had another question, kind of half and half. I'll answer the first part. So it's about Surfer SEO. It's about if it's a separate service that you can be integrated, or is it included if you're using Planable for blogging, and are there other tools that can be integrated? So I'll start by saying right now there's no SEO tools that can be integrated in Planable. That would be amazing. Who knows? Sometimes in the future. But right now, Surfer SEO is used separately. But Andrea, maybe you can share a bit more about what does Surfer SEO actually do, and what does it help with in the SEO process? I know you glanced over it a bit, but if you can just talk a bit more about it.
Yeah, so Surfer SEO is a completely separate tool. We use it a lot for their content editor feature. Basically, you can do your keyword research, keyword planning, keyword clustering in it. We mostly use it for brief creation and article writing. It gives a lot of keyword suggestions, and it makes it really easy for the writer to work with the suggested keywords because of their interface that's very intuitive. So you have on the right side, you have a list of keywords, and the tool suggests like a range, like how many times you should use it in order to outrank, the top ranking competitors. It does a lot of, it takes out the guesswork from keyword insertion and keyword usage, and makes it very easy for people who are not necessarily SEO savvy to know how many times they should use a keyword, or how many semantic terms they should write in the article.
Amazing. We have two more questions. Those were the more general about how Planable and SEO, or just in general, how our universal content feature works. So I'll try to give a brief overview as we're right out of time. And I will include in our email that will have the recording and the presentation. I'll also include a couple of helpful articles on this topic. But to give you a bit of context, so how Planable works in this whole SEO process, but not only, it helps with, first of all, a place where you can create your content, whether that is the actual article or the brief in this case, or both. creating that piece of content and getting that whole feedback and approval in one place in a much, much easier way than you could in like Google Docs or any other more general tool. So that's what it does. It helps with planning, organizing, creating, and feedback and approval. And it stops for now at publishing. So once you're done with your content, with your article, then you go ahead and you copy paste it into WordPress or whatever you're using. But that's how it works. And I'll very, very briefly share my screen just to kind of show you a bit what that looks like. So in Planable, because some of these questions came from active users of Planable. They mentioned, they're using social media, but they're unclear how to kind of incorporate this non-social media piece. So right here next to all of your social media platforms that you have connected, you have the space to add a page for what we call universal content. And it can really take any shape or form you need it to. We have here two of our most common examples, like blogs and newsletters. But like Andreea showed us, it could be briefs, it could be resources, it could be templates. So it could really take any shape or form you need it to. And then essentially what it does differently is it gives you a lot more room for formatting your content, right? You can have headlines and lists, and you can also include images and videos. And then the whole feedback process, which having long form content is a lot easier now with annotations and suggestions. Suggestions, by the way, Andreea mentioned them previously. They work like track changes in Google Docs, if you're familiar. So it allows you to see what has been changed inside the text, and then you can easily just accept or reject a suggestion. But yeah, that's pretty much how it works in a very, very quick nutshell. And as I mentioned, we will have a dedicated session on how to use universal content in Planable, like exactly how to add a page, how to create content, how to leave feedback. We have a session in just a couple of weeks, so we'll definitely, you'll hear from us promoting that very, very soon. But hopefully this was just a very, very quick overview of how this kind of fits in with the social media content. And the last thing, if you're using the calendar view, it's really nice because you can see all of it in one place come together. So you see your blog and your Facebook and your LinkedIn and your X and all of your content in one place. So you have a comprehensive overview of all of your content efforts in one place. All right, I think this was most of the questions. Thank you so much for everybody for participating and all of your lovely questions. It was really nice to see everybody so interested and involved. And yeah, we'll be back with the recording and the presentation for everybody to go over them. And we hope you learned something and you had a nice time.
Thanks everyone. Have a good one.
Goodbye.